We're here to talk about strategic relationships as we deal with new platforms. I'd like everybody to go down the panel and spend at least a minute explaining what you do and what's the most interesting thing that's consuming your time right now. So, start locally here.
Michael Taylor with ICTV, and what do? We are focused on driving television through back-end web services. We are very busy these days. We have launched in Hong Kong, we're launching in Europe, and here in the US, so 3 continents keeps us quite busy. The things that we find most exciting right now is our ability to take web-based video and web-based applications and translate them into high-quality MPEG, whether it's SD or HD, and bring that to the television set and have it, to stay on topic, to have it monetized through either transactions or web-based style advertising.
Okay.
My name is Chris Grasso. I work at NBC in our digital media group, and I lead what we call the emerging businesses team. What we try to do is identify new business models on the internet and in some cases incubate them. Probably one of the things that's taking a lot of my time right now is we're really trying to understand how to win niche, highly endemic vertical categories that are very attractive to advertisers. So the first
such
as the first of these, which we recently launched, is a small category, but in the category pets, where we launched a website and ad network called Petside.com that's done very well, and we did it actually in partnership with an advertiser, Procter & Gamble Productions, as we worked with them to understand what was the type of environment they wanted for their advertisers. Launched it together, and hopefully, as that goes, look for other types of those kinds of partnerships. And we're looking at many other niche verticals as well. That's the first one that we've actually announced and launched.
Hi, I'm Craig Engler. I run the digital group at Sci-Fi Channel. Sci-Fi is also part of the NBC Universal empire, so we actually work together in 30 Rock across the street. I'm primarily focused on 2 areas, which is one is supporting and extending our network. So we do a lot of stuff online, everything from full episodes of shows to original video content, and then extending the Sci-Fi brand into new areas, specifically technology, gaming, and entertainment. Those are 3 categories where people who watch Sci-Fi and come to the Sci-Fi presence online, they spend a lot of time in those areas. So we launched a site in December called Device, D-V-I-C-E, which is a technology spin-off of Sci-Fi. And we'll be doing gaming stuff and entertainment stuff as well.
I'm Mark Gray from Unknown Vector. I'm here representing The Small Guy. We're a startup, technology startup, based here in New York. We just recently launched our first beta of our product, UV Layer. And UV Layer is essentially an enhanced presentation layer or user interface for online video. Essentially, we're trying to make the end consumer's experience with online video better.
In what way? Let's start with that.
Well, it's pretty.
What's the elevator pitch? Go ahead.
Yeah, the quick elevator pitch is when we talk about online video and in fact just how we've adopted media into the internet. It's really been something where the internet started out as really a research tool for text and information, and we've kind of quickly shoehorned in images and video, but the experience isn't really the same experience as the end consumer wants, right? When they want a higher impact experience, they want to be able to manipulate their media, they want to collect it and organize it in a fashion that they want to return to it. And so we're enabling all those different types of interaction, and then they want to share their media and experience it with others. So we're also allowing users to essentially import their friends from places like Facebook, from their IM networks, and their friends show up, and then they can immediately start sharing videos with those friends, all in a drag and drop fashion, right? So very simple. We kind of talk about it as we're trying to do for online video what the iPhone has done for the phone industry. We're trying to
that's not too lofty a goal. Okay,
yeah, it is a big goal,
and
and that's what's keeping me busy.
Cool.
I hope it's faster than the iPhone on the internet, though.
Exactly.
We think it is.
What I say next door, I said the iPhone does cool thing. Does slow things in a very cool way.
What's your company name?
Unknown Vector.
So, Chris or Christopher? Which do you prefer? Chris. Okay, good. You've had a slow week this week. You had something Wednesday that launched. You want to? Hulu? Want to talk about that?
Well, you know, I think it's been, we've officially opened it up. I think it's pretty exciting, and what it really stands for is ubiquitous distribution, which it's both a fantastic destination site, and moreover, it's got wonderful distribution deals with all the different partners. So there's been a lot.
So who are
written
some of
about
the partners? Because we're talking about strategic relationships. So to launch something like Hulu, it started out with a partnership between NBC Universal and Fox.
Right, but
At
there's
the- at-
distribution with
and
Yahoo,
then the distribution is-
MSN, and Yahoo and AOL. So, you know, there are a lot of partners involved. It's a great place for content holders to put their content in and get it out. So, you know, I think we're very excited about it, and we continue to be pleased with its production.
Okay. And who are some of the content partners at this point?
In terms of content,
And who's putting up, I mean, who from name content as opposed to, you know, UGC or whatever, who are you working
Well,
with?
you know, the Sci-Fi Channel has a lot of content on Hulu.
Okay, so you two knew each other. That worked out good. Who else?
we've got a lot of the Fox content. Comcast has some stuff up. I mean, there's been tons written about, you know, all the different content partners that are into Hulu, and I think that they're working pretty hard to get more partners.
Okay, and you were able to get 3 entities together who are normally fierce competitors in the case of Yahoo and AOL and everybody. Was that a not too formidable task?
In terms of the Hulu, yeah,
The-
you know, it's something that was in the works for a while, and people worked pretty hard on it. I'm probably not the best person to give you the details on how that all.
No, I'm not
came
looking for
about,
detail, but I mean,
yeah.
you have 3 major distribution points that normally you'd pick one. You'd say I'm with AOL or I'm with Yahoo or.
Well, I think the notion has always been around we've got great content, and the notion is to get that content out with as many partners as possible, and we've been, you know, pretty successful at doing that. You know, Craig and his team have fantastic content, and you guys want to get that out in as many places as possible.
Okay.
I would
Partnership?
like your content, by the way. Just
What?
want to throw that out there.
You what?
We would love to have your content in UV layer.
Can we do a deal in real time here? That would actually be really good. We're going to do a strategic partnership in real
Everybody's
time.
open, so.
Is there an attorney in the room? Sure. Is nobody that wants to bill some hours? Come on, we can do this here. Okay, in your world,
We're all about partnerships. I mean, the way we're bringing video to the TV set, you obviously have to work with those that are carrying video to the TV set. So whether it's cable, whether it's IPTV, whether it's satellite, or whether it's going over the top directly to, you know, smart TV sets, you have to establish partnerships in that genre. And then depending on what networks you're going into, there are partnerships, technical partnerships we have to
Right.
to establish, whether it's with how do you manage the video on these specific networks. And then there's our customer base itself, which, you know, we like to say are partners as well. And, you know, we've signed with, you know, we're carrying content from Turner, from Fox, from Reuters, from, you know, a number of other name brand providers, as well as creating operator-specific content that are not unlike what you guys are doing in Unknown Vector on a television level that allows mashups and such driven by web services on the TV.
okay. Sci-Fi Channel, some of your partnerships. Talk about some of the deals you've done and how they work.
Well, we have this partner called Hulu, which we were just talking about. Actually, Hulu is a great relationship for us because Sci-Fi is all about getting out quality entertainment in the best possible viewing experience. And Hulu, I don't know if people have had a chance to use it or not. And Hulu is a separately owned company from us. So
Right.
when I talk about them, I don't talk about them as, hey, these are guys I work with. They're actually a separate company that has a deal with our company. So they're a distribution partner for us, and you know they came in. Jason Clark, the head of Hulu, came in and gave us a presentation on Hulu a couple months back, and we thought, wow, this is one of the best viewing experiences I've ever had. So we were thrilled to have them as a partner. We've done everything over the years. Sci-Fi has done everything over the years, from having shows on Xbox Live. I think we were the first TV show on Xbox Live. We had a behind-the-scenes special about one of our hit shows, Battlestar Galactica. You know, we've given video to everyone out there. Primarily, we're in the business of distributing our own video right now, or being in the Hulu partnership, which is kind of where NBC Universal and Fox have all sort of agreed to go. So when we talk about partnerships, either we're talking about distribution partnerships, and you know that includes mobile as well, or we're talking about promotional marketing partnerships. So distribution-wise, without, you know, the sort of marketing element, again, we're primarily in the Hulu camp right now because then Hulu distributes us everywhere, AOL, MSN, all the places you've heard. And then marketing-wise, we're kind of take all pitches, put our content where we think it'll reach the people who are interested in seeing it, both in terms of existing viewers and attracting new viewers.
And you?
Partnerships. What's really important to us early on was partnering with Adobe. So our initial beta launch was really a desktop application. So our application leverages Flash as a technology, but they also have a technology called Air that they're going to market with in a big way this year. Right. And it's basically a technology that's enabling you to take sort of a website and get it to the desktop. So for us, it's been exciting to have them and as a partner talk about UV Layer. And
that was very important because we throw the term strategic around a lot. And you talk about, you have content partners, you have distribution partners, you have channel partners. We're talking about strategic relationships. How do you define this? In this case, it seems that Adobe would fit the classification of that was part of your strategy and they helped you fulfill it.
It definitely was because clearly there's a lot of presentation layer types of technologies out there to choose from. Part of it was understanding that they had a new technology that they were going to be pushing, right? So as a startup, we were going to leverage that marketing push. So that was big. The technology itself worked for the kind of experience we were trying to create. And we liked the idea of actually sort of flipping the production cycle where we're launching a desktop application. It's in a closed space. It doesn't require a lot of server-side infrastructure, so we keep our costs way down. And now we've taken that same sort of basic code base and taken that and put it online. So we're going to be launching the web-enabled version of our desktop product basically in a week.
Okay. Chris, what do you look for in a strategic partner as opposed to distribution partners and whatever? I mean, when you're sitting around going, okay, I need to hedge my bets here, what's the thought process?
Well, I think if you go back to one of the alliances that we have with Procter & Gamble Productions, again, it's a relatively small business, but you've got to have alignment of incentives, you've got to have alignment of objectives and strategies and make sure that there's a real relationship and a shared vision of where you want to take the business together. I think that's what I would separate it, what's truly strategic. I also think you need to be in it for the long haul. If you go back to the Hulu example, it's clear that it's a separate company, but both Fox and us, NBC, were very much into it for the long haul and very much had a shared vision. Same case is what we're doing, on a much smaller level with some of our advertising partners like P&G Productions. We really had a shared vision that the pets category was highly fragmented, not a good, no good destination site, no good single place for advertisers to buy that kind of audience, highly engaged audience, very strong niche type of vertical. We really wanted to go after that together because we knew that they could bring a lot to the table and we could both bring a lot to the table, and we had a shared vision and a strong relationship to do that together.
Okay. Thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, for us, strategic partnerships really does include the distribution arena because we are taking our customers, the programmers, and bringing them into the TV. And in order to do that, it's very important for us to establish strong relationships with the distribution or the video operators, whether it's cable, the telcos, or the satellite companies, or actually the CE devices as well. So that's critical to our business, and that's what we're focused on. Because we're finding that on the programming side, everyone wants to get to the TV the way we're bringing it to the TV, and it's all about eyeballs, and it's just establishing those relationships to get there.
And what happens when it doesn't go well? I mean, I don't know if anybody wants to share an anonymous horror story. If you make what you consider to be, no, it can be totally anonymous. You make a strategic partnership and you find out that your, quote, strategic partner is a concrete block. And anybody want to touch on what do you do to get out of it, and when do you realize, I mean, it's obvious when you realize it isn't working, but how do you back out of it, and what's the next step? I mean, any advice? Because people here are starting up new companies.
I think the key is just setting the expectations up front.
To say that's generally when we call them the lawyers. So but
Where's the lawyer again?
I mean,
there's a lot of work for you.
Things rarely go that wrong. I mean, usually the things that we have are either there's technical issues, there's always technical issues, so, or there's audience delivery issues. not necessarily ours. I mean, anyone's in the partnership. So, I mean, the kind of things that go wrong in a partnership, because usually you've ironed everything out and you're pretty aware of all the contingencies going up, are just, or if you're doing something new that's time-based, which is always a disaster, then there's always slippage, right? So, we've done a lot of things where, okay, it moves from the first quarter in 2000 to the first quarter in 4020 or something, you know what I mean? So but there's not a lot that hasn't been covered before you sign any paper. So it's all kind of pretty well thought out.
Got it. Questions so far? Richard, you must have a good one. Just we can introduce ourselves to each other. This again, want to keep it as interactive as possible. So anybody that's got any thoughts or any questions for these guys, it would be very helpful, because it's a wide open topic and it's really hard, quite honestly, to drill down to anything unless we're going to share, numbers or anything, which usually when I ask those questions, nobody wants to touch on. What has been a successful partnership campaign for you at Sci-Fi, where you've brought in, he gave the Procter & Gamble example, which is, I think, really good, of a good partnership that at least can lead to something.
We had a great partnership with Intel a couple years back when they were looking at their Vive platform. They did an overall deal with NBC Universal that included Sci-Fi, and Sci-Fi, because of the nature of our audience and the nature of our content, was some of the best performing parts of their deal. So they're actually coming back to us now. We're in conversations with them about a follow-up deal that's not related directly to the Vive deal. But Vive was a great partnership with Intel, and they got what they wanted out of it, and we got what we wanted out of it. I'm trying to think of anything.
Ultimately, Vive went away, didn't it?
Vive didn't really go away, because I don't think Vive ever existed as a thing. Vive was a bunch of components kind of put together that Intel was getting specific messaging about. And really what our deal was is, if you had a Vive-enabled computer, you could go and get episodes of our shows in a very high-quality downloadable format, which we were interested in doing with a partner who could obviously help us ensure the integrity of our content and also the delivery of a very high-end viewing experience. And Intel, for their part, was very satisfied with what we delivered to them.
But did you have expectations that it was going to have legs, so to speak, that it was going to, or was this a moment in time and make the best of it? Because that was a big initiative. That was one where they were out looking for partners everywhere, and everybody wanted to ride the Vive bandwagon. But it hit a brick wall at a certain point.
I can only speak from our point of view, because, again, Intel just was very happy with what we delivered, and we have a great relationship with them. Our expectations were fully met, which is that there was a safe, well-lit environment where people could download our shows, put them on their own computers, and watch them in a great experience. There were no, Intel basically just came back and said, we loved working with you. Your content had great consumption rates. We'd love to work with you in the future. I mean, I'm not really in a position to talk about whether Intel is happy with where Vive went or not.
But what about your consumers? So you've got customers who got used to an experience that they were getting, and all of a sudden that experience came to an end.
Well, they knew that it was, we didn't pitch it as hey, you're going to be able to do this forever. This is, hey, you can get this type of content now. And, we don't promise, because of the nature of the legality around show content, we never promise anyone everything forever. So it's just not feasible for us. So, we delivered on what we promised, and the consumers were very happy, at least with the Sci-Fi portion of the experience.
Beyond that, he is, the company's establishing a relationship with Intel isn't such a horrible thing. I'm sure they're going to have other initiatives that are potentially could be more successful than Vive, and a lot of what we've seen as a startup, some of these companies, Intel, Sun, they're really, for any startup people in the room, they're doing a fair bit of outreach and support for companies that want to, cost-effectively start a business online. So there's a lot of opportunities with some of these large tech companies, and there is some good opportunities, and the people that run the program are pretty strong. They offer you opportunities around marketing as well as support around hardware. It depends on the program you're in, but some of those programs are pretty advantageous if you're trying to start a business and keep your costs low.
But okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just follow up and say that we're actively looking, or we're not necessarily scouring looking, but we're actively talking to everybody about anyone who can help us with some type of innovative experience, and going and knowing that 9 out of 10 of them won't work. It's not trying to make them work, it's trying to learn from what you're doing. So, over the years, we've done a gazillion things, you know. I mean, I joke that the first time Sci-Fi streamed a full episode of a TV show online was more than a decade ago, and technically it was incredibly hard, and legally it was really easy because no one cared. Now technically it's really easy, and legally it's really hard. So I've actually developed great relationships with about 14 lawyers at NBC Universal because of that.
Yes, Richard.
One of the panel could have comments on TiVo. TiVo, the hardware company, TiVo, the services company. Friend, foe, facilitator, partner. How do you feel?
All of the above. If you don't like that one, just got a great question sent to me. But we'll go for that one.
Can I text you an anonymous question for that? No.
Sure. No, you'll like this one. Can I read this one? I can't tell you the newspaper, but I just got an email from a writer at a newspaper. I'm writing a story for tomorrow's newspaper about Kristen, Elliot Spitzer's friend. She'd like to have a music career, and I'm wondering whether that is A, out of the question, B, more likely, or C, something else. Can I have your opinion on that? Anybody think she's got a music career? Have you heard her song?
Yes.
Does she have a career?
Yeah.
Really?
Ooh.
Okay, good. Thank you. How many people think she has a career? I'm going to use this in my... Oh, I got two hands. Okay. I'm losing somebody over that question. He's actually walking out over that question. It's Elliot's brother. Okay. What? Okay, no, but we didn't actually answer Richard's question. Let's do Richard's, then we'll get to you. I'm sorry.
I mean, I could jump in on that one. It's like we see TiVo as a strategic partner. I mean, it's a way to the TV. It's a path to the screen we want to get to, and we can enable them, and they can gain from the type of programming that we bring in there. So we think it's a really nice relationship that we could establish with those kind of companies.
Anybody else?
TiVo is a great example of innovation in the space, trying to serve the need of the consumer. So we're doing likewise, and there's challenges with doing that, obviously. But you know, they do serve as a great model for, hey, you know, this is how users want to experience their media, and they did a great job with it. Even in copying it, some of the DVR capabilities out there, they don't match it. I mean, I'm not going to name names, but I had a TiVo. I got rid of my TiVo and replaced it with said cable company's DVR, and it's not the same experience.
Right.
It's a nightmare, actually. It's frustrating. So again, for us, it serves as a model of kind of what we're doing in the online video space, which is just making that experience with video better for the end consumer.
Chris, you're smiling. Any thoughts on TiVo?
Well, it's a reality, and with that reality, there are some good things, and there are some other things. And I think, you know, we've been pretty aggressive about figuring out ways to make adjustments to that. I think you're going to see continually a lot more continued innovation around advertising formats to make sure that you can address that, and we've done a pretty good job of that this season, and we'll be doing more of that.
You did, well, your GE side of the family did one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. How many people have seen the 1 Second Theater? Okay. You know about 1 Second? Okay.
The two guys who technically work for G are like, what?
What? Okay.
1 Second Theater?
You don't know about it? Oh, it's unbelievable. So what they did, and you can go to onesecondtheater.com. GE ran a spot that shows this frog jumping. And I don't know if you've seen the frogs
No.
jumping all over
Now
the
I
world.
have to say yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, say yes. Good, right. Somebody from you. Okay. At the end of it, there's a blur of visions. And it says go to onesecondtheater.com if you want to go see it that way. But what you do is you hit pause on your TiVo and you frame through this whole long story. So what was a 30-second spot becomes like a 5-minute experience because they turned TiVo on its side and said, let's utilize it instead of fighting it. And it makes you spend anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, and you're calling people in going, watch this. And there's a whole slideshow buried in this commercial. It was a pretty amazing use of basically recognizing the technology.
Well, Sci-Fi has, I think, very close to the highest C3 ratings. So we have a lot of retention through TiVo. So TiVo actually went from, hey, it's kind of scary to, hey, it's not that bad. We're hardly affected once you add in C3. So it's been great for us.
Okay. You had a question.
Yeah, I realize this might just be TV, so I don't know sci-fi.com yet, but I will.
You should.
Well, I'm just wondering, is it television or is it long tail as well?
Well, Sci-Fi.com, and now I have to answer you with the 30-second sort of version of, it is both the official site of the Sci-Fi Channel and the largest destination in the entertainment category of science fiction in the world, right? So we do a ton of standalone content that is not related to the network whatsoever. There's daily news services, and we try to do this. Basically, we try to tell you everything that's going on in the week of entertainment. I don't know if everyone knows this or not. This is a little bit of my, spiel, but 8 of the top 10 highest-grossing films of all time are science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Most of the top-selling video games and computer games out there were science fiction or fantasy-based. All that kind of stuff. So we cover the entire genre online. So it's kind of part of it is for the network, and then part of it is this great standalone destination.
But do you distribute did you let films online?
We distribute. I'm trying to think if we have films right now, because usually we're primarily focused on full episodes of our own shows. We do a lot of trailers because that's sort of our coverage of the overall entertainment category. And then we have these Saturday night movies, the most dangerous night on TV. They're like Saturday night creature feature monster movies, and we have the rights to some of those to distribute those online. So those are something we do. And then we also have a video section called Sci-Fi Drive-In, which is mostly it's public domain. It's mostly feature-length films or serial-based TV from a long time ago that we sort of put on because there's a lot of viewers. So there's film content, but it's not like, we're not posting Universal films.
No, but you just went to market this week with Tin Man?
Well, I don't know if Tin Man came out on DVD. Is that what you're saying?
It came out on
DVD?
DVD
Yeah.
this week.
Well, so Tin Man was a 6-hour miniseries that aired in December. It actually aired online after you watched it on TV. You could come watch it. I don't believe it's online right now just because of the windowing distribution opportunities. But yeah, the DVD probably, if you saw it.
And if you haven't seen Tin Man, it's pretty good.
Oh, Tin Man's awesome.
So, other questions? Quiet crowd. Other comments? I mean, if I'm going to stretch this out, we can come up and creating things, but
I have a
seriously,
question for
go
the
ahead.
other-
I mean, look, because
So
I'm used to a music crowd where they're screaming, "Screw you, no, screw you," and they're throwing things at each other. So,
Well, and this is like picking these guys' brains to help me, but we were talking about the video experience, and everybody kind of what we found is that viewers are really willing to sit through a 30-second pre-roll ad to watch free video content, but they're not really happy about it. Personally, I'm not really happy about it. You've seen a lot of people start playing around with overlay ads and all that kind of stuff, which I forget, MetaCafe does it. And I just was wondering from the other panelists, how they're working on, well, especially for you, I guess, how you're working on advertising, integrating advertising and video in non-invasive, annoying ways. Is that something that you guys do in your viewing experience?
Well, we're focusing more on the human interaction side. So we're actually trying to stay away from trying to monetize an audience that we're trying to build right now. So, and quite honestly, the way we look at it is if we start developing content partnerships, I think you guys would like to monetize your content, and you're going to support it with the ads that you want. And I wouldn't, I wouldn't go to NBC and say, or Hulu and say, hey, I want your content, and now you have to use this kind of ad unit. I think, at the end of the day, we're pretty flexible, and we would work with them to monetize the content properly so they feel happy. But what we're focused on is really this presentation layer and driving the consumption of video. So what we talk about is if we make it easier, just like TiVo did, TiVo users watch more TV. Okay, and at the end of the day, driving consumption, and to the earlier point, that's a lot better to monetize. I mean, there's more opportunity to monetize when people are engaged more, and we have to figure it out. These are new models, but they should be exciting models because, again, we're driving consumption. So, that's sort of our general premise to make the user experience better and drive consumption, and then dip our toe in the water around monetizing. That makes sense for our partners. I think, there's been a lot of discussion around the different types of ad units, and I think it's all, it's going to be exploratory. I think at the end of the day, people really don't want, if you do talk to the end user, they don't like advertising, obviously. So the onus is upon the industry somewhat to come up with either a form of content or advertising that is on its own potentially entertaining. And one of the things we noticed in our beta release, one of our users created so you can basically create these mixes or collections of videos. They created a Christmas collection with Christmas videos and music, and then the person also inserted videos of the Will Ferrell iPod commercials, which are, if you haven't seen them during Christmas time, they were just hilarious commercials, and people were watching them. It was entertaining advertising. And again, I think there's opportunities around creating advertising, compelling advertising that users will in fact watch. And I still, with my DVR, on occasion, if I come across an ad that is about something I'm interested in and it looks like it's a well-done commercial, I watch it. I don't skip through it, right? So at the end of the day, I think that's the real challenge, is how do we drive better advertising? Obviously formats will be played with, and that exploration is good, but I'm not sure it's fully going to be solved by an overlay or a bumper. It's a little bit bigger than that.
But that's hard.
Right. Of course it's hard.
And it goes back to, you talk about strategic partnerships.
Right.
You need a lot of alignment in the value chain to be able to pull that off effectively, because it can't just be a mass media buy just with an agency and a media buyer and very transactional. It's got to be much more about relationships, and I think you're going to see the whole value chain really build much deeper relationships, both with the advertiser, the agency, the media company, and the distribution partner have all got to be aligned to be able to pull off the types of things you're talking about. That's hard. That takes a lot of time, but you know, eventually you have to get there.
Yeah, it's a way to reach what you were talking about before. I mean, the market's going there anyway. Media is fragmented. It's, these little niche audiences. You guys are trying to get to them because they're passionate, right? These people that are that have these focuses in these specific areas. It's much more compelling to serve up an ad that's relevant. It's contextual. It has to do with their passion. And it's good. It's well done, right? So if you do that, the payoff is going to be bigger as well. So clearly, it's difficult. I'm not saying it's easy, and clearly, it's not what I'm focusing on. So it's easy for me to say, but at the end of the day, that's where we should, and I think, invest our energy in.
And I think also the value chain that you just listed out, there's a lot of fingers going into the pie, and we need to figure out either how to expand the pie or make those fingers a lot more efficient, in what they get out of it. We're finding, like, one of our programmer partners, which is a game on TV, games on TV programming that does in-game advertising, and when they're working with their media sales and paying our fees for distribution, and then working with the operator to share that. Even though, on launch, when it's interactive and they're judged, if you compared the usage to a Nielsen, they would rank in the top 5 cable network. Still, the whole process and the whole value chain needs to be large enough for everyone to make a decent living out of, to grow on that.
Okay. Thoughts, anybody? Yes, sir. Thank you.
For a less established venture that you might be looking at partnering with, are there any specific sort of financial or operational hurdles that you look for kind of as benchmarks before you go into a partnership with somebody that's sort of less established?
I guess that's only you.
Go ahead, Chris.
Go, Chris. It's all yours. I'll be back in about 10 minutes.
Well, it's a tough one. No, it depends on the partner. I think, it depends on the partner. It depends on the deal. It depends on the idea. It depends on whether, my best advice is if there's a pain point that we have and you've got something innovative to solve for it, we'll figure out a way to do business together. And I think, it's all about classic sales, right? Find your customer's pain point or find your partner's pain point and come up with something that's going to answer that pain point, and then we move relatively quickly.
Any other thoughts on that?
That's, again, what we have lawyers for.
What?
That's, again, what we have lawyers for,
okay.
to get them involved in the due diligence process.
But in a lot of cases, I mean, I came from EMI Music, from a music company background the last few years, and the definition at a record company or at a music company of a strategic partner is, will Intel give us dollars? Will Microsoft give us dollars? Who's going to give us dollars? Who's going to increase the reach? And it becomes more about a cash relationship or a resource relationship, as opposed to, it might not be, figure out a way to get Microsoft involved, figure out a way to get Intel involved. They've got money. Do you feel as much pressure in your media world as the music companies have felt the last few years to stretch your budgets, or is it really a pure strategic I mean, do we get into more holistic?
Was that a joke question?
No, it's not. No, I'm
No,
just
I'm teasing it.
because sometimes strategy. I'm telling you, literally, strategy at the music companies equaled, can we get a check?
Yeah, I mean, checks are great. You know, if you come to us and you want a strategic partnership and you have a check that is going to exponentially increase our ability to partner with you. As a cable network that, you know, perennially struggles with having enough marketing money for all of our shows and all that kind of stuff, a lot of our strategic partnerships are about extending the reach of whatever our marketing opportunities are. We have an excellent, one of the best marketing groups in the world at Sci-Fi. I don't happen to work for the marketing group. I'm sort of a companion. I sit alongside of them. So mostly we're involved with helping them do a lot of these things where, you know, if they do a buy on Yahoo, and if Yahoo would come and say, and this is purely theoretical, like we would give you, you know, X more impressions or X better placement or X more time across more quarters. If you were to give us, say, you know, full episodes of your shows or something like that, we absolutely would consider it. The Xbox deal that we did with them, I'm pretty sure was mostly an exchange partnership where Microsoft was looking to have content on the Xbox that was video content, and we happen to have this great show that their users were interested in. So absolutely we're looking to do strategic deals that extend the value of the dollars that we have in addition to actually getting
But
real
it doesn't
dollars
have to
in.
be hard dollars, because you're saying the Xbox thing's a great example of this was a win-win for both of you.
Yeah.
They had a great audience for you. You had the stuff they wanted that gives more use out of the device.
Yeah, I mean, basically the one thing is when you're doing something experimental, almost certainly there's no dollars attached to it, right? So you have to, you know, you find a couple partners willing to engage in this stuff, and then you kind of see where it goes. I mean, our ideal partnership, other than just getting cash, would be, you know, developing something with a partner that then we are both able to take dollars out of.
Yeah, you know, you know, budget's always a pain point, right? So cash always would answer a pain point. Promotion always answers a pain point. But services can answer a pain point, and we have a partnership with a very early stage company called Adify, which powers a couple of our vertical ad networks, where we had so much demand on our owned and operated websites and on a couple of the iVillage properties that we needed more inventory. And we went out and partnered with some smaller sites. And what Adify does is they allow us to power that network and do all the back end stuff, which is really hard. They were a pre-revenue company. We did a deal with them. Not only did we do an operating deal with them, but we invested in them through the Peacock Equity Fund, which is our strategic investment fund that we do with GE Commercial Finance and NBC, invest in these early stage companies. So not only, you know, are we working with them, but we're also investing in them, and it's because they had a very good platform that hit one of our pain points, and we could both make money together, both as on an operating level and on an investment level.
And also, if I may, on the strategic partnerships, you really need to be careful on, again, setting the expectations up front, because especially if you're a smaller company and you are partnering with a much larger company, the goals can be entirely different. And you can go down a road, you can spend a lot of resources, you can go down the proverbial rabbit hole with these guys, and it may mean everything to your business, but it may be of marginal utility to their business. And so you really need to be careful how you go into these relationships and know where you're going with them, stay focused.
That's really good advice. Yes, sir.
It seems like a lot of the conversation has been around online businesses. Do you have any, this is probably more to Chris and Greg, do you have any experiences with partnerships that integrate across broadband and network, or is there a desire or need to move in that direction?
That's actually what we do. I mean, we link the web services side to the TV side. And so we're partnering very tightly with the operators, the video distributors right now. And again, I'm trying to pay heed to my own advice on being very careful about those partnerships. But we're finding that there's been a lot of movement of the TV to the web. We're also seeing that there is a tremendous amount of interest of, let's say it's the AAA league, you know, the Blip TVs of the world, that they have an enormous amount of content, and a lot of it is bubbling up to be actually quite compelling content, but the challenge of getting onto a traditional cable network or a traditional IPTV network, because of bandwidth issues, because of business issues, because of whatever kinds of issues, it's very difficult to get to Broadway, you know, which would be the TV set. And we're trying to provide that conduit back to the TV set for these programmers. And Yep, some of it's easy, and some of it's not. You know, it's a depends on where you go.
Yes, sir.
Can I just follow up on the Adify strategic partnership? How did that sort of start? Did it start from the Peacock side or from the business side?
The operating side, they had they had a product that fit one of our needs. We liked doing business with them. We liked the team. They were out then they went out fundraising, and we said, we'd love to participate as part of our strategic investment fund. So oftentimes, it comes through, there's a strong operating relationship, and we want to follow with an investment.
But again, how did they get your attention? How did you discover them, or how did they get in front of you and wave enough that you realized that they were valuable to you?
Just classical networking.
Yeah.
Someone who knew someone who knew someone. It got in front of us, and we were looking for a solution, and we saw their solution. There were other solutions as well. Theirs was the best, so we went with them.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm on the bandwidth side, and you guys are, quite frankly, way ahead of where we are. And I'm actually starting, it's coming, but it's nowhere near as far along. And I'm starting to get requests from companies to block this site or block that site. Is that something you're addressing? Mainly at work, because...
Give an example. Why would they want you to do that?
Well, with Slingbox and TiVo and things like this, people will be at work and will go back to their home and start watching a game while they're working. Well, for somebody who just has a T1, they're only getting 1.5 megs, and now it's causing problems at the office because 3 or 4 or 10 people or 100 people are starting to watch this. Is this something you've been looking at, or is this not on the radar screen yet?
It's actually a real problem. He's pointing out a real problem. I mean, they have it even with internet radio in offices where people are like sucking the bandwidth out. If 1,000 people in a major building are listening to internet radio, it can suck it down to zero.
I mean, I would just say that we suffer along with everyone else, and that just the other day I wanted to do, trying to see what I could say or not say about it. I wanted to do something that involves streaming very large quantities of video over the internet, and we priced it out, and the sticker shock on my face was ridiculous. I was like, maybe we could get an advertiser that would come in, for like $250,000 for this first one, and then we're like, oh my God, it's going to cost more than $250,000 streaming wise, because we were anticipating high usage, and we kind of, we're like, well, maybe not. I mean, Sci-Fi is not an infrastructure company, so I can't help, but I'm certainly ready and willing to participate when someone finds the solution.
Okay. You had a question, ma'am? You had a question? As loud as you can.
Do you think that some of the trends for strategic partnering
Shh.
are going to
Great idea.
be based in technology, like your technology needs and problems, or your operating problems, or like what's driving the trend, I guess, going forward for you guys in terms of, what do you think you can resolve that's going on, or issues on technology?
What are the problems?
Well, I think, a lot of the innovation happens in startups, and to really be successful in this new world, you need to embrace innovation. And so a lot of it's technical, right? You've got these teams of 30 or 40 engineers in Silicon Valley working 24/7 on a ad-serving platform or on a some kind of any sort of the new technology or new ad formats. You can't do that as much in a big construct in a big company, so you need to go out and find some of these smaller companies to partner with in new ways. But so if the technologies, I think a lot of it will be technology based, because that's an area that is where a lot of innovation happens in Silicon Valley. But you'll also see some of that maybe in content as well. There are a lot of great startup content people coming out with stuff, and we're always looking at that.
I think on the advertising side, it's especially for the environment that we're working on bringing to the TV and making this interactive are standards. Trying to work with a Fox and a Turner and a home shopping network and convincing them of the benefit of having standards across the various types of programming, so that serving out the media, serving out the ads can take place in an efficient manner. That's a very important thing. That's a challenge for us right now.
Okay.
I would. Can I just throw in? I would just say
No,
that.
you can't talk. No, go ahead.
Sorry. on some level, everything's a problem. Nothing works the way that you want it to. You know, when I go in and, you know, like the time changed and my TV freaked out and I can't even watch YouTube on my TV right now anyway. I mean, you know, it's all either problems or, you know, like, especially, you know, in my business, which is sci-fi. I mean, I don't have a jet car. I mean, come on, what's up with that? You know, so it's like everything doesn't work the way I want. So everything is an opportunity for us to do a deal and fix something. I mean, nothing really works as smoothly as you would like it right now.
Which brings the question, as you're rolling some of these out, and it's not exactly a strategy question, but it's an operational question. You really can't look toward the blue sky of it. You've got to look to the lowest common denominator or the worst case experience, don't you, in terms of... I mean, if you're ending up with those...
We set levels of expectation. I mean, at Sci-Fi, we have a higher level because we have more sophisticated consumers on the technology side.
And they all have Alienware computers.
Oh, I wish.
Yes.
But, you know, you'd be shocked, though, actually. Some people call us up and like, I'm on dial-up and I can't watch full episodes. And it's just like, I can't help you, you know? Watch your TV, you know? But we set our level pretty high. So, you know, we're always going for the best experience. And because of our user base, I can contrast that with NBC, who's a sister network, well, a giant Big Brother network, really. But they have a more mainstream audience that is probably less technically savvy. So when we talk about doing a lot of stuff that we're all collaborating on in the NBC Universal family, a lot of times NBC might be looking for different standards than we are. So, you know, it's a conundrum.
Which is interesting. Will your audience suffer something edgier than?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
So you know that they can deal with glitchy.
They not only will suffer it, they ask us for it. They expect it from us. So, you know, we get stuff all the time. Well, how come you don't blah, blah, blah? You know, basically it's the question, how come I don't have a jet car? You know, I'm like, we're working on it. You know,
so it's not a bug, it's a feature.
Yeah, right, for them, they're willing to give that a try.
All right. Anybody else questions? Brad, do you have a question?
I'm just taking it in, but actually, what are the future challenges? What, you know, you're talking about the cutting edge. I mean, what are the expectations of where you want to go and serve your audience?
You couldn't like narrow that down a little bit in terms of, you know, any particular category?
He's a recovering journalist. Go ahead.
Well, in terms of this panel and what you want to deliver to people, I mean, you know, you expect things to offer more things to people, or have them come and ask you to get sort of, what's the expectation?
Well, let me just give you an example just in terms of broadband video of all kinds, whether it's streaming shows that we own or producing shows. One, the technology delivery systems pretty well suck across the board. I mean, Hulu's a great experience for where technology is. Is it the ideal experience if you just invented it from scratch? Nothing is the ideal experience on the internet. Legally, it's a morass. You know, every time we try to do any kind of deal, we're basically doing them all from scratch. There's almost no templating involved because don't forget, when we do a show, we're working with one production company for one show, one production company for another show. So, you know, legally it's a disaster. Technically it's a disaster. Financially, you know, people were like, oh, web video was so cheap. When you actually get into the real production of web video, not just like, you know, showing the kid who falls off the stairs on a skateboard 50 million times in slow motion, but actual production of any kind of dramatic show, there are no shortcuts that the web suddenly enabled in terms of making sure the set looks good. And, you know, like digital sets aren't there yet. So, I mean, everything is kind of everything could be better. Let me put it this. I don't want to say everything's a problem because actually everything's, you know, really moving along quite nicely. But, you know, we're always looking at doing stuff that you can't do yet. And we're just waiting, whether it's legally, financially, technically, you know, whatever it is.
Do the advertisers have expectations of what you can offer to them, or do they dictate to you what level you need to be on?
No, well, one of the things that's really interesting about advertising in this world is that although, and I just came off of this Midwest sales tour. I was in Detroit and Chicago talking to all the advertisers that we want to partner with. They all want something that's incredibly new and innovative as long as it's been around long enough where they can get measurement from it. So, you know, once you get to the point where they need to measure a specific ROI for $1 that they're giving us, it really limits you technically, and they know that. I mean, and some of them actually have whatever, like Mad Money, you know, that they'll try for experimentation, and those are usually the ones I end up talking directly to because we'll pitch them 10 crazy ideas that haven't been done before, and you know, if they have a couple $100,000, they might, you know, try one thing. But the advertisers have a very realistic expectation of what they want, and everyone wants something different. I met with an advertiser, and specifically the only thing they wanted was a click-through to a website that generated a transaction just because of the way their business was. Normally, that's not a business that we're in, but that advertiser, like you, if you knew who they were, you'd be like, oh yeah, they need that. So, then you have to be in the business of, well, can I sell you what you need? If not, thank you, goodbye. If yes, we'll have a conversation. But they're very technically aware of the limitations.
In looking for new things that are out there, other than the technologies you've already talked about, what is the most interesting thing you've seen in the last month, in the last week, in the last whatever? What's walked through the door that you've gone, whoa, never saw that coming?
UV layer. That's an easy one for
Fix.
me.
Adobe Air?
UV.
Well,
UV.
Adobe Air is just a enabling technology. So
Okay.
it's the experiences, that we've built around that technology. So, but I think it's interesting to hear about the innovation, and the reason why some of the larger companies look to startups for innovation is, as you can hear just in that description of needing to serve all these different constituencies internally, the content people, the advertiser. Tough to get innovation done, and that's where there's opportunity for startup companies to actually go out there and innovate and try new things without those constraints, and and then hopefully bring that innovation to content partners, to people who can see, hey, this is exciting, this is innovative, and then partner together and kind of bring that to market. And I think that's starting. What's exciting is 5 years ago having that conversation was. It was very different. It was, in fact, the engineers in Silicon Valley, and like at some point they might get together, like or Google, after 8 years of working on a really smart search engine, stumbles upon this direct marketing ability to monetize what they built. But at the end of the day, which is exciting, is there's more of an environment, an understanding to hear. Again, this is NBC talking about, hey, we're going to look to a startup to help fill a need. It's exciting. It's an exciting time, I think, for both parties, because when that collaboration starts to happen, we really are going to start to reap the benefits of what's going on in the digital medium.
Chris?
Well, I think we see a lot of really interesting innovation. I think a couple of the companies that have been most innovative have been around people building businesses on top of the Google platform. Mm-hmm. So we saw one business that created a whole new interface on how to buy paid search keywords, both from Google and some of the other keyword type of providers. That was so intuitive that the only way someone could have done that is have a couple incredibly talented guys and maybe 10 really smart engineers working 24/7 to come up with this interface to make it really easy to buy your keywords. We saw another company recently that's figured out how to take some of the data coming off of Google Analytics and put it to identify the most influential bloggers and then post your ads against that. So you're almost seeing these ecosystems of people being able to build businesses on top of other people's platforms that are pretty compelling. And what's great is it's not hundreds of people, it's 10 people, but 10 really smart people coming up with some really creative ideas.
Well, I just came back from the last couple months of working with distribution partners on Asia, Europe, and here. And I think one of the most fascinating things I've seen is in Hong Kong, there's an IPTV, or in their telco there, called PCCW. And I was amazed by what they've done on the TV, just using the remote control and admittedly some of our technology in the back end. But what they've done and the creativity there is the melding of linear television with web-based type of interactivity, monetizing it through transaction, monetizing it through advertising, where that advertising is overlaid or interstitial or pre-roll. And what they've done is fascinating. It's the best looking TV service I've seen over the last 10 years. And it dwarfs what we're doing here in the U.S. and from most of what I've seen over in Europe. And it's quite fascinating. They have 1 million subscribers in Hong Kong up and running on this, and it's pretty fascinating. So I think that's one of the things I've seen.
You get the last word.
I was trying to think of one because I knew there was one. So I'm a Bank of America customer. This is going somewhere, I trust you. And I was doing online banking, and they said, well, do you want to sign up for this secure text key? And I was like, sure, I'll sign up for anything, to see what it is. And they won't do a transaction. They'll text you a one-time only number that's good for like 1 minute for you to enter online to do your secure transaction. And you don't need a key fob, you don't need anything, you just need your cell phone. And I tried that and I was like, this is genius. Even if it doesn't work, it makes me feel more secure. So I was, I just had this comfort level with online banking that I hadn't had before. And, it's great because they text you this, and even the text is kind of like, it's like a little disguise because the text has one number in the subject line, but that's not the number you use. You actually have to open it and get the other number. And actually, I thought that was a great use of, it's using the web and mobile for me to do banking and make me feel good about it. I might just be a chump.
Am I dead? Okay, they had another one that's interesting. I don't know. Anybody else use Bank of America banking? Okay, they have an interesting one where they put up a picture. You pick a picture.
Key, yeah,
the site key basically is saying if you don't see the picture that you picked, you might not be. Yeah. You're not on the Bank of America site. You're on Brad's site, doing your banking.
It's not secure. I'm from Verisign. We do that, and that is bad.
That's bad. Why? Go ahead.
Wait, the site key's bad or the text thing's bad? Oh, okay.
The SMS security is great.
Oh, good.
And why is the site key bad?
It just seems like it's sort of a false sense of security, but it's not actual. It's not actual another level of authentication. It's just
Okay, no, that's good.
Yeah.
It is.
But see, I don't actually want it to be more secure. I just want to feel better about it personally, so it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Okay, unless there's another final question, I'll set everybody free. Thanks very much for coming, and thanks to the panelists.